I came back, I think April. So I did a half marathon the 1st of March, and then I realised in April I couldn't really run in the same way as I had been running. I had pain in my side. And when I was doing yoga, I was trying to do a boat position, thought, oh, that's really quite painful on my side. But because I had a history of fibroids, I just thought, oh, maybe I've lost a bit of weight, or the fibroids moved, or whatever. Went to the GP and said I got a pain in my side and it's stopping me exercise in the same way, and did explain that I was a high-risk group for ovarian cancer because of a history of ovarian cysts, and he felt me and said, oh, I think you've got a bladder infection. And I went, no, I don't believe I have a bladder infection. We're going to test you for a bladder infection. And if that comes back, then we'll test you for other things. I said, okay. So Julie did that, nothing on the bladder infection, came back. Then he said, I think we'll test you for being a celiac, so a gluten intolerance. I said, I don't believe gluten intolerance. I think it could have candida, IBS or something, but I don't believe. Well, we'll do a blood test for that. And I delayed that because I just didn't really believe in it. And then I went travelling, and when I came back, I felt really quite unwell and thought I must have candida or something. I'd been to the States, lots of sugar and everything, just thought I've eaten too many waffles for breakfast, too many big buns with, sandwiches and too much sugar in them. So I started taking probiotics. I was always on that aloe vera juice anyway. So then I was on probiotics, aloe vera juice. A friend had told me to take oregano oil, so I was doing that. And then I noticed I was getting really tired. So at the beginning of July, I'd gone to do that parachute jump. And I was waiting. I had to wait 8 hours to do it. And I spent 6 of those sleeping on the grass. And I thought, oh, I'm really quite tired. That's a bit. And by then I'd been to France and I had really stopped eating by then. So I couldn't eat, in fact. I would eat and I got terrible acid reflux. And so I was eating tiny amounts of food. I wasn't drinking. It's quite unusual for me. So that would be really noticeable. I was with France with 7 friends and I wasn't drinking. I stopped eating black coffee. I could eat minuscule amounts of food, and I'd given up bread by then just in case I was a celiac, which I knew I wasn't a celiac, but just in case. And I was starting to lose weight from my arms, and if I look back now, I see photos of that time in France last year. I can see I've got a distended abdomen, which I think I'd started to notice wearing a dress one day in April. I thought, oh, Jenny, you need to give up or do more at the gym or something, because that's not looking so great. And then that distension, if I look back now, started more and more. So luckily, I have a great girlfriend who I was out for dinner with one night, and I was explaining, oh, I'm now on probiotics, aloe vera juice, oregano oil, and I'm taking Gaviscon 3 times a day because I've got this terrible acid reflux. And she said, and thank God she did, and she'd been through ovarian cancer, I don't like the sound of this. You need to get back to your doctor and you need to have the CA125 test. And I went, oh, yeah, I will. She said, oh. And then she said, have you made a doctor's appointment? She phoned me. And I said, oh, well, I was going to, and I had one, but I had to go to a meeting for work. This is very important. You must go. And so, save her nagging me, I went back to the doctor, and I saw a different doctor. I saw a female doctor. And said the same thing. I'm a high-risk group for ovarian cancer, but you've already said it's probably not that because I was scanned 2 years ago. I'm thinking maybe it's stomach cancer. This is not IBS. I said, and I was really quite, and she was a little bit hesitant to take me on because the other doctor had started something, but I didn't have a huge amount of faith in him and had Roxy's words ringing in my ear, you must have a. So she said, okay, well, eventually she said, well, you could come back. I said, no, I'm not, no. And what I forgot to tell her is how tired I was, and I forgot to tell her about the night sweats, which were pretty bad by then, because I was so determined to have this CA125 test. And she actually was fine. She said, here's your tests. So I went, maybe that was a Thursday, and on the Monday I had my blood test done, and the guy there was great, and he said, oh, these tests will come back very quickly. Your results should be back tomorrow afternoon. And I said, oh, okay, so what else am I being tested for? I know I'm being tested for ovarian cancer, but what else? And he sort of shuddered a bit. Oh, I don't like to call it that. I said, okay, the CA125 test. And he said, yeah, and inflammation and do, and other things you're being tested for, a whole thing. I said, okay. So so that was Monday. Tuesday afternoon, I phoned the doctors and said, could I have my blood results? And the receptionist said, there's a note on your file saying, could you come in to discuss them with the doctors? And I already knew by then I had a mass because walking off a pavement, sometimes I'd get a jolt. Walking downstairs, I'd get a jolt. I'd given up I'd done a little bit of weight training still by then, but really I wasn't doing anywhere near the level of exercise I had been doing. So I went in, so I got an appointment Wednesday morning. And the lovely lady doctor could hardly tell me what the results were. She just said, your CA125 is elevated. And I said, well, I have an elevated CA125 reading because I have a complicated gynecological history and I have endometriosis, and that elevates your CA125 reading. And she said, no, it's much higher than any of those would indicate. I said, okay, you're going to tell me what it is? And she sort of struggled a bit and then said it's over 4,000. And I said, I have ovarian cancer. And she said, well, we don't know that. And I said, but I think that's what we do know. And she said, well, we don't know that. We don't know that. And I said, okay. And she was great. She got me in so that was Wednesday. She got me in for a scan on the Monday at the Chelsea in Westminster. Anyway, I went back home, read my notes that she'd given me for the referral, and saw the CA125 reading. Normal is 30 to 35, and I was 4,270 or something like that. Then I saw this word, ascites, ? So like everybody, I Googled it. And that was the distension. It was fluid in my belly. And it was, the book will tell you, or Google will tell you that it's normally with people with liver problems, but that wasn't me. And 15% of cases of ascites are cancer in its terminal stages when it's spread to another organ. So I thought, maybe I don't want to wait till Monday. So I was fortunate enough that I had been scanned at a private hospital, and I phoned them and said, when is the next scan you can give me? I'm going to pay for it myself. And they said tomorrow. So that was Thursday. So I went in the afternoon and I had an ultrasound scan, which confirmed I had a 13.5 centimetre tumour inside me, covering my uterus, my ovaries. Lovely, lovely radiographer. I owe her a huge debt, because she again said to me, why are you here? And I said, well, I've got a CA125 reading of over 4,000. I believe I have a tumour in me, which I can feel gives me pain when I walk. I think it's what's pressing on my stomach. I can't eat, And she was amazing. She just said, she scanned me. I could hear her go clicky, 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 which they're taking measurements of everything. And she said, we would normally do this as a nurse and a cup of tea, but, I know you're not going to leave this room until I've told you everything that I can see. And she said, and then she went, yes, you have a tumour, blah, blah, blah. I can't tell you what it is, but that with your CA125 reading is indicating that that's an ovarian cancer. And she was amazing. She told me what my care would probably entail, gave me great advice as to where to get treated. I mean, really great advice. And so I got moved to the Marsden. So I went back to my GP and said, hello, I've been recommended I should go to the Royal Marsden, a specialist cancer hospital. And I said, there's no appointments available on the Click and Book, or whatever they call it, that NHS booking system. And I said, but my great friend, who had been through this, right? She had been through ovarian cancer, was a 5-year survivor, said, I've spoken to his secretaries. We're going to fax a form across to him directly, and we're going to see if we can just massage an appointment for you. And that's exactly what happened. So a week later, I was seen by the team at the Royal Marsden. 3 weeks after that, I had surgery, and I had a full hysterectomy, my cervix removed, and 12 centimetres of my bowel removed. I was in ITU for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 nights. Hospital for another 8 nights. Couldn't wait to get out. Tubes everywhere. Hated it. And that took me to like the middle of September. I started chemo 4 weeks after that. And I was lucky enough to get on, it's called an Icon 8 trial. So instead of me having 6 doses of chemotherapy 3 weeks apart, I had 18 weekly doses of chemotherapy. And it meant I was able to wear a cold cap. So I kept my hair on my head anyway. I pretty much lost everything else, including my eyelashes, for 2 weeks. But it meant I had to go in the hospital one day for blood tests to check I was okay for chemo, then go in the next day to have the chemo, and my chemo was 1/3 of the normal dose for ovarian cancer. And like everyone tells you, you know, chemotherapy will do this and this and this and this to you. And it's true. It may do this and this and this, but on the whole, there's one way you react. So I reacted with my bone marrow getting shot. And that was basically because I was on a weekly trial and it didn't have a chance to recover. So at a point, I had to have quite a long way in, maybe 3/4 of the way through the treatment, I had to have blood transfusions because I had no red blood cells, and I had to have injections to boost my bone marrow to make platelets and things so that I can continue the chemo. But that's pretty much all I had. I mean, I was really fortunate. I finished chemo the 4th of March. By I think the 21st of March, I got told I was in total remission. And last week again, I had my last blood test, and my CA125 continues to drop. So pretty good story, all in all. But what I would want to say to women, is that we can get fobbed off quite easily. You know, they talk about ovarian cancer being a silent killer, because it's discovered quite late, because like my friend before me, like me, like other women that talk about it, they send you down the IBS route. And it very commonly, ovarian cancer occurs in women at menopause or just slightly post-menopause, and it's the same thing. Oh, it's the menopause. So you get fobbed off with IBS, you get fobbed off with menopause. And I can't remember who qualifies, but I think the nice protocol now is that women of my age going to the doctors with the symptoms I had have to have this CA125 test, which is a marker for ovarian cancer. The trouble is not everyone responds to it, so not everybody secretes CA125. So you may go with symptoms of ovarian cancer, have a CA125 test, it comes back negative, say, but you do have ovarian cancer, so you need to follow up with a scan. But I'm lucky, I secrete CA125 in massive doses, so was really, really fortunate. So, interesting journey, but a great one, because here I am, and it's 6 months of treatment, 8 months of, you know, undergoing it all, and I've been told I'm in total remission, so I count myself incredibly fortunate, really incredibly fortunate.